My grandmother always say, when a man tell you don't worry about it, worry about it. Trevor said those exact 4 words to me on a Friday evening. Standing in the kitchen, eating the dinner me just cooked, like everything was perfectly normal. Don't worry about it, Marie. By Saturday morning, there were 4 men in my yard loading speakers onto a truck that I had never seen before in my life. Each speaker was taller than Mark, and Mark was not a small child. Now, before me tell you what happened next, let me take you back to where this story really begins. Because to understand that Friday evening, you have to understand Trevor. And to understand Trevor, you have to understand one thing about Kingston in those days. Music was not entertainment here. Music was power. Whoever controlled the sound, controlled the street, controlled the night, controlled everything. And Trevor, my Trevor, the man who sold records downtown and came home every evening smelling like vinyl and ambition. Trevor controlled a sound system called Riddim King, and me didn't even know it. Now let me paint you the picture of what Kingston was like in those days. Because those of you who grew up there, you already know. And those of you who left before you could remember, this is for you. This is so you can feel it again. Downtown Kingston in the 1970s was not quiet, was not polished, was not anything like what you see on a tourist brochure. It was alive. Every corner had a sound. Every yard had a story. Every evening when the sun started go down and the heat began to ease, something would wake up in that city that had been sleeping all day. Me remember coming from the country, from Portland, where the loudest thing at night was rain on zinc roof and the corky frog them singing. And landing in Kingston, where the loudest thing at night was a song system shaking the walls from 3 streets away. The bass alone could tell you something serious was happening tonight. We used to lie in bed those first weeks in Pembroke Hall listening to it. That distant bass, like a heartbeat that belonged to the whole city. And Trevor would be lying beside me, perfectly still, perfectly quiet. But I could feel your listening too, like the music was calling him somewhere of one quite writing to tell me about. Back home in Portland, when the evening come down soft, me grandmother would light the lamp, and the whole yard would gather on the veranda without anybody calling anybody. Just regards together by the light, by the cool, by the feeling that this is where you are supposed to be. Kingston had that same pull, just louder and considerably more complicated. Trevor finished him dinner that Friday evening, push back him chair, stretch out like a man with not one care in the world, kiss me on the cheek very casually, too casually, the kiss of a man who has a plan he has not yet seen fit to share, and say, me going out later. Me say, where Trevor? Business, Mary, just business. What kind of business at 10 o'clock on a Friday night, Trevor? The kind that can't wait till Saturday, darling. No, me am not a woman who creates problems where there are none. Me gave him the benefit of the doubt. Cleared the table, washed the dishes, and went to bed. At 2 in the morning, a sound hit Pembroke Hall like God himself had turned up the volume on all of creation. Me sit up in bed. The windows were vibrating. The cup on the bedside table was moving across the surface all by itself. Slowly, steadily, like it was trying to get somewhere safer. And then Mark appeared in the doorway, eyes wide as saucers, hair standing up in 3 different directions. One sock on, one sock gone. The way children look when something has pulled them out of a deep sleep and the world no longer makes sense. Miss Mary? Yes, Mark. The house moving. I know, sweetheart. Is earthquake? No, darling. Then of Trevor? I looked at that child standing in my doorway, and I said very carefully, "Go back to bed, Mark." He looked at the vibrating cup, looked at me, looked back at the cup, and said, "Miss Marie, the cup disagree with you." He walked to bed. I sat there in the dark, listening to Kingston shake. Some nights in this city teach you more than a whole year anywhere else. This was going to them be one of them. By 2:30, Miss Lou was at her door, nightgown on, broom in hand, looking up and down the street for the source of the disturbance. Me opened my window quietly. "Miss Lou." She spin around fast. "But wait now, Mary. You hear that noise?" "Yes, Miss Lou." "Is who doing that?" Me pause for a long moment. "Business, Miss Lou. Just business." She look at me. The way Miss Lou looks at you when she knows you know more than you are saying. She raised the broom, not at me, just at the general situation, in the way of a woman registering her official position, and went back inside. Trevor came home at 4:30 in the morning, moving very quietly through the house, shoes in his hand, trying, God bless him, to be invisible. He made it all the way to the bedroom door and found me sitting up in bed, arms folded, lamp on, full eye contact. He smiled. That big, warm, fill up the room smile. The one that had worked on me since the very first day we met. "Marie, Trevor, before you say anything, Trevor, it was a really good night. Trevor, we made good money." I let that sit in the air for a long, quiet moment. "We," I said. "We?" "Well, the sound, Riddim King." "And what exactly is Riddim King, Trevor?" He sat down on the edge of the bed, and for the first time since I had known this man, Trevor took a long breath before he spoke, and then he talked for 2 hours. Not the fast, charming talking he does when he is working his way through something, but the slow, careful, word by word kind of talking that a man does when he is telling you such real. 3 years building Riddim King sound before I ever came to Kingston. Speakers built by hand, records imported from America and England through his connections at the shop. A selector, a man named Desmond, who could read a crowd better than most people read a good book. Backstreet dances, empty lots, words spreading by mouth only you knew where to go if you needed to know. Police came sometimes, sometimes didn't. When they came, everybody dispersed like smoke in a breeze and regrouped somewhere else before midnight. He told me about the rival sounds: Coronation King, Black Tornado, Iron Fist Sound, each one with their own followers, their own territory, their own reputation to protect. A sound system clash in Kingston was not a friendly competition. It was battle. The crowd decided who won, and losing in front of your people was something a man carried for a very long time. Riddim King had never lost. Trevor said that last part very quietly, the way a man states a fact that matters more to him than they usually let on. And you looking at my man sitting on the edge of our bed at 6 in the wards, with 4 still in his eyes, talking about music and street dances and a sound system he had built with his own 2 hands. And I understood something despite today. Trevor was not your Dr. Shush Trevor canvas, sections. The street was your Samson Thames. And Riddim King sound was everything he had poured himself into before you arrived. That didn't mean I wasn't going to about words with him about the vibrating cup. Marie, Sunday morning came the way Sunday mornings always come. Quiet and certain, like it has more authority than any other day of the week. Trevor was asleep before I even finished washing my face. I went to Mark's room. "Mark, time for get up." He opened one eye. "Miss Marie, is Sunday?" "Yes, darling." "We go in church?" "Yes, we are." he sat up immediately because Mark, whatever else this child was, understood that Sunday was not negotiable. I pressed his church clothes the night before, his little white shirt, his good pants, his shoes polished until you could see yourself clearly in them. I looked at him standing there in his Sunday best, 6 years old, serious as a junior deacon. And something in my chest did that thing it always does when I look at this child. We walked out into the Sunday morning yard, the air still cool, the week's noise not yet awake. Miss Lou was already at her door, fully dressed for her own church. Big Sunday hat, white gloves, the teacup replaced, for once, with a small worn Bible. She looked at Mark, looked at me, gave her slow approving nod. Mark looked up at her hat. Miss Lou, your hat big. She looked at him. Thank you. It's not a compliment. It just very big. Miss Lou adjusted that hat with the full dignity of a woman who has decided it is perfect, and no 6-year-old on this earth is going to change that. And she walked out of that gate. Mark held my hand as we walked to church. Quiet Kingston Sunday streets around us. Someone's radio sending gospel from an upstairs window. The smell of rice and peas already rising from somebody's kitchen, even at this early hour. Because in Jamaica, you start the rice and peas before church, so it's ready when you come home. That is not a recipe. That is a commandment. And somewhere across the city, Desmond was packing up Riddim King Sound, loading speakers onto the truck, coiling cables, counting the night's earnings. 2 different worlds moving at the same time, under the same Kingston sky. And I was searching in the middle, holding a 6-year-old's hand, walking toward the church, trying to figure out exactly what kind of life I had walked into. Old-time people say, love is not what you find, is what you build. Me was just beginning to understand what that truly meant. This is Marie from Yawd. Walk with everybody. Same time next week. And if you want to know what happened the night Riddim King Sound met Fist Sound face to face in a clash that shut down 3 streets of Kingston,